Bryn Kenney never lost sleep over rivals. He had beaten every serious player the poker world threw at him, and he had done it with a calmness that bordered on arrogance. $80 million in tournament earnings, the greatest single cash in poker history, the all-time money list leader. But the one person who finally broke him was never sitting across the table. He was standing right beside him. Bryn Kenney grew up in Long Beach, New York. Before poker, there was Magic, The Gathering, strategy games that trained his mind to see patterns nobody else could see and exploit them before anyone realized what was happening. That instinct carried directly into poker. He turned professional in his teens. By 2019, he had produced the single largest tournament cash in the history of the game, over $20 million from one event in London. He was aggressive, fearless, completely certain of himself in rooms full of people who were certain of themselves. For years, that certainty was justified. Then Martin Zamani decided to talk. Bryn Kenney did not build his reputation slowly. He did not grind small buy-in tournaments for years waiting for his moment. He arrived at the highest stakes the game offered, and he stayed there. Magic. The Gathering had given him something most poker players spend their entire careers trying to develop: the ability to read a situation completely. To see not just what was happening at the table, but what was about to happen. What his opponent was thinking before his opponent had finished thinking it. That skill transferred from cards to cards, with a precision that felt almost unfair to the people sitting across from him. He was not just aggressive. He was aggressive at exactly the right moment. Every time. And in high-stakes poker, where one decision can cost more than most people earn in a year, timing is everything. By the time the poker world fully understood what Bryn Kenney was, he had already been taking their money for years. The results kept coming. Final tables in the biggest events on the circuit. Wins in tournaments where the buy-in alone was more than most professionals earned in a career. He moved through the super high roller circuit the way a predator moves through territory it has already claimed. Not hurrying, not hesitating, just taking what was there because nothing in the environment suggested it belonged to anyone else. The Triton Million in London in 2019 was the moment that put his name permanently above every other name in the history of the game. He finished second in an event with a buy-in of $1 million. The heads-up deal he negotiated secured him over $20 million from a single tournament. No player in poker history had ever taken that much money from one event. The all-time earnings list had a new leader. And Bryn Kenney had not just reached the top. He had redefined where the top was. But behind the results, there was a structure that very few people outside his circle ever saw clearly. Kenney ran a stable, a group of players he backed financially and coached personally. In the world of high-stakes poker, this was not unusual. Wealthy players and successful professionals often staked promising talent in exchange for a percentage of their winnings. It was a business arrangement, a way of spreading risk and developing talent at the same time. Kenney's stable operated on a different level. He was not just providing money and stepping back. He was involved, deeply involved, in the players he chose, in the way they lived, in the decisions they made both at the table and away from it. The people inside his circle described a closeness that went beyond normal business. A culture built around Kenney's beliefs, Kenney's methods, and Kenney's expectations. Players who joined were not just joining a financial arrangement. They were joining something that demanded more than their poker skills. It demanded their loyalty, their lifestyle, their complete trust in the man at the center of everything. Martin Zamani came into that world as a believer. He was a poker player with genuine talent and genuine ambition, and Kenney represented the fastest route to the highest level the game could offer. The backing, the coaching, the access to games that most players at Zamani's stage could never afford to enter. Being inside Kenney's circle meant something real. It meant resources. It meant opportunity. It meant sitting at tables with the best players in the world before you had fully proven you belong there. For a young player hungry to make his mark, that offer was almost impossible to refuse. Zamani did not refuse it. He accepted it completely and built his poker career inside the structure Kenney had created. For a time, it worked the way it was supposed to work. Money came in. Experience accumulated. The relationship between backer and player felt solid. Zamani was inside, trusted, part of something that felt, from the inside, like a team with a shared purpose and a shared destination. But trust built inside a closed system is fragile in a specific way. It depends entirely on everyone inside the system believing the rules are fair. The moment one person starts to feel that the rules only protect the person who made them, something begins to crack. Zamani started to feel that crack long before he said anything publicly. The questions he could not ask. The money that never quite added up. The sense that the loyalty flowing from his direction was not being matched by the loyalty flowing back. It built slowly, the way pressure always builds before something breaks. And in April 2022, Martin Zamani decided he had carried the silence long enough. The tweets came without warning. That was the first thing that made them impossible to ignore. There was no buildup, no hints that something was coming. One day, Martin Zamani was a player inside Bryn Kenney's circle, and the next day he was on Twitter telling the poker world exactly what that circle looked like from the inside. The allegations were specific, detailed, the kind of detail that only comes from someone who was actually there. Players inside Kenney's stable had been sharing hole cards with each other during live tournaments. Multiple accounts operated by the same person in online events, so that one individual could see more of the deck and manipulate outcomes accordingly. Ghosting. Real-time assistance software. An operation that Zamani described not as a poker stable, but as something that had stopped resembling anything normal a long time ago. The mantra he quoted was short and devastating. Do what is best for the team. In a game where every player is supposed to be competing independently for their own result, that instruction was not motivation. It was the foundation of a cheating operation that had been running quietly inside the highest stakes games in the world. Doug Polk got Zamani on his podcast within hours. What followed was one of the most listened to conversations poker had ever produced. Zamani did not speak like a man performing for an audience. He spoke like a man who had been holding something heavy for too long and had finally decided to put it down regardless of what it cost him. The details kept coming. The lifestyle demands Kenney placed on the people around him. The vegan diet, the specific routines, the personal beliefs that were not suggestions but expectations. Players who pushed back were met with psychological pressure that Zamani described with a word that landed hard on everyone who heard it. Gaslighting. The kind of manipulation that makes a person question their own memory of events. That makes them doubt what they saw and heard and experienced until the only version of reality left standing is the one the manipulator constructed. Zamani said he had witnessed Kenney playing as multiple users in the same online tournament. He said the cheating was not occasional. It was systematic. And he said the reason nobody had spoken before was the same reason people stay silent inside any closed system where one person holds all the power. Fear. And the belief that the person at the center was too powerful to challenge. Lauren Roberts came forward shortly after. She had been close to Kenney personally, closer than most. The screenshots she posted showed text conversations where the money she allegedly owed kept changing without explanation or documentation. The number shifted every time it came up. No spreadsheet, no record, just Kenney's version of a debt that seemed to grow or shrink depending on the conversation. Her description of what it felt like to be inside that circle matched Zamani's in the ways that mattered most. The loyalty that flowed toward Kenney was not returned with equal loyalty. The closeness was real on one side and conditional on the other. And when the condition was no longer met, the warmth disappeared completely, and what replaced it was pressure. Financial pressure, emotional pressure. The particular cruelty of someone using your trust against you after you gave it freely, Kenney responded. He went on podcasts. He gave interviews. He denied the most serious allegations with the directness of a man who had spent his career making decisions under maximum pressure and was not going to crumble under this one. He called Zamani a liar. He said Roberts owed him millions and was motivated by personal debt rather than principle. He said he had never endorsed collusion in any form. He said it clearly, and he said it repeatedly. But the poker world had already done its own calculation. The specific nature of the allegations, the number of people coming forward, the details that matched across different accounts from different people who had no obvious reason to coordinate their stories. The community that had placed Kenney at the top of every list that mattered looked at all of it and arrived at a conclusion that no denial could fully reverse. Many of them had already made up their minds before Kenney said a single word in his own defense. Bryn Kenney still plays poker. The $80 million in earnings did not disappear. The talent that produced those results did not disappear either. But something changed in April 2022 that no amount of tournament wins can completely restore. Reputation in poker is built over decades and damaged in days. Martin Zamani spent years inside Kenney's circle learning everything there was to learn about the man at the center of it. And when he finally decided the silence was no longer worth keeping, he did not swing and miss. He hit everything he aimed at. Bryn Kenney truly hated him more than anyone. And the reason was the simplest one possible. Zamani had been close enough to know exactly where to aim.